My friends, what software am I in? You might find it surprising. I'll go over here to my desktop to show the new edition, VS Code. But notice the penguin. This is not your normal VS Code. So, this is because of Twinkle Envy. I took care of Twinkle Envy already by adding Copilot to my Vim environment, which is really NeoVim. So if I were to, I don't know, Vim test.py, it drops into what looks like Vim but is actually NeoVim. And when I start to code, I have all the twinklies, right? I can say, go into insert mode and say, write a function to find the shortest string in common among list elements. And then you just stop there for a moment. And the way it works in NeoVim is you go a line at a time, and you can sort of empty out your entire thing here. Although it didn't write it for me there, that's really interesting. That's right. So we just say a function instead of an instruction for it, because this kind of stuff, you know, is a growing art form. So there you go. You don't have to go a line at a time if it knows what to do. So this is Copilot. This is Microsoft GitHub Copilot, which is OpenAI adapted, one of the models, plugin, blah, 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 blah. And so most people are using it through VS Code, not Vim, NeoVim, right? And it's a little bit different in here because it also provides Intellisense and whatever other plugins it can try and load on you. So this is a little keyword clustering thing I did. So if I run that cell, can I please take a minute to tell you about my notebook experience in VS Code? In Linux VS Code on a Windows desktop, mind you. I am not doing your usual thing. So, no thanks. I don't take the survey right now. But now I have this data frame. One of the things that happened here is a data frame was put in memory. And so let me talk about those twinkles, the twinkle-jealousy. So there's Copilot twinkling, which I can get on NeoVim or VS Code. And if you start to do your df and you put a dot, it's going to just start to, you know, suggest things you might like to do. So getting the top 10 records is a very common thing. Oh, but look, there goes the other thing that happens, which is Intellisense. You can Intellisense because of those little pictures here, and you can see them trying to balance the collision space because the API of Copilot and the API of Intellisense, you know, autocompletion, are kind of battling each other for dominance. So say I wanted to use the explode function. Let's see how long it stays in Intellisense. So it left Intellisense and jumped back to Copilot. So you see that? And I could execute that and it would do what I asked for. Doop, 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 doop. I hope I'm not asking for too much. Oh, I'm outputting a CSV file. So there you go. If you do this stuff with hardly even thinking, you might end up outputting a CSV file. I don't think it even did it correctly anyway. I'm going to X out of that whole thing, escape, X out, and then I for insert mode. Nope, escape. Yeah, I for insert mode. Oh, you got it. No, you hit the space button. Yeah, so I'm getting used to this. This is VS Code with Vim binding, so it takes a lot of getting used to. Now, if you wanted to turn off Copilot, you can just click there and disable Copilot globally. And now you'll see when you start to type df, insert mode df, the behavior is different. Instead of just trying to fill it in automatically with Copilot, it jumps right into Intellisense. So if you wanted to try to do an aggregate of something, you could then start to do that, and it tells you the contents of those functions, and you can step through them, get examples or whatnot. So this is all that twinkly stuff. And when you're kind of feeling your way through an object, you can go back and forth to documentation and a number of other strategies, or you can just kind of lean into what the editor's trying to tell you. And it definitely makes you more productive, but it also makes you incredibly dependent upon these tools. So whereas Intellisense tells you what objects and functions and methods and all that internal variables might be in there, Copilot tells you what you might actually want to do. It actually fills in a suggestion, and then you can execute that, and there you have it. How many title fields and how many topic fields. And that's about it. I wanted to show you, these different environments, because now that I have paid my $100 for a year's worth of Copilot, I'm not gonna only use it in the Vim environment, the Vim NeoVim environment. I need to see, smell, touch, taste, and feel how this is being used by other developers out there. What's happening to them? The rails, the strong rails and corralling that are happening. And it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just something that increases your Microsoft dependency. So why did I do it in Linux? Well, because I went through a fair amount of trouble to unify my my paths, right? All my paths are /. So if I wanted to do something like see where my executable was, and even what my environment is. So if I go out to a browser, you can see that, or not a browser, when I go out to a Linux terminal, you can see when I bring up a new Linux terminal, one of the things I do is I shut myself into an actual Python virtual env. It's not the same as a virtual machine, actually. It's just a virtual environment where your version of Python and all your pip install dependencies and whatnot are all kept in one location. And if I cd ... up to my home directory, because I drop into repos here, but if I go one directory up and do an ls, you'll see that I use my home directory here, Ubuntu Lundervond tilde / this is my home directory, as a place to put my Python virtual envs, my repos folder. They're really that important. Just no hup I don't need. So as a bonus, you're seeing me delete a no hup command. And I don't keep very much in my home directory, as you might see, as you might notice. In fact, that install doesn't really belong there either. But what you should notice is this Python 3.11 is the exact same place I wanted my code executing off of here as well. So if I import, see that I missing is because I wasn't in insert mode. And this slowness is a combination of my screen my screen recorder software combined with VS Code on Linux graphics on a Windows machine on an old piece of hardware. So I for insert mode, I'm already in it, and import sys. And once you have sys imported, you can now do things like sys.executable. And you will see the location where my Python exe is being loaded from. Home Ubuntu Pi 311 bin Python. It is actually in the same virtual directory as anything I would run on the command line here. If I were to type, Python space file name, it's being run by this very same Python executable here from the command line. If I were to run Jupyter Lab, there from Jupyter Lab, if I were to go into VS Code, no matter where I go to edit, it all shares all the same common Python resources. If I pip install in any of these locations, that pip installed piece of software is available to all the other locations where I may run code. So when I want the twinkly advantage that everyone else is getting right now of being kind of put on these, rigorously corralling rails, compelling you in a certain direction because Intellisense and Copilot, I'll fire up VS Code and do a little experimental stuff there. So anyway, I thought I'd share that with you. I probably have another video coming up to show you what all this is about, because I created an automatic topic categorizer, for my blogging pages. So whereas you saw me in the past layer in meta descriptions, you might have seen me layer in meta keywords. Now I can actually put in a category per blog post so that I can make that blog page not quite run so long and have subcategory blog pages to organize similar material, etc. So that video will be coming up. Thanks for joining me. Hope to see you again soon, and don't forget to subscribe.